Let's talk about the future of Captain America. As we journey into the next phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we are clearly going to see some major change, some deaths, some rebirths, and some reimaginings moving forward. Today we're going to talk about the future of Captain America, Steve Rogers, and what King Kevin Feige may do with the Champion of Goodness in the next phase of the Marvel Universe. Now, as we move into the next phase, there are three major players that are most likely going to take up the shield. The first clearly being Chris Evans. There is one and only one Steve Rogers. Evans has fully embodied the role since the moment he uttered the lines,
"I don't want to kill anyone. I don't like bullies. I don't care where they're from."
and I don't think anybody else could ever fill that role. Fans have grown used to him. He's been in Captain America in so many films now that a recasting is highly unlikely. I suppose they could go the James Bond route. I don't know if fans would accept this. And we have to ask ourselves, is he really done? Or is this a guy that simply wants a break from doing push-ups and eating keto food all the time? Really, the groundwork is already in place for him to take a break and then come back and tell an epic story all at the same time. The next major player is Anthony Mackie. Sam Wilson has been Cap's partner since The Winter Soldier, and I think the guy could actually carry the franchise. He's proved himself a strong partner and a solid hero. He was also working social work before he became a hero, so it shows he doesn't really need a costume to be a good guy. Now, we don't know how many contracts he has. He's been in 6 movies as of Avengers 4, but Mackie himself has joked he signed for, and I quote, 50 movies. But it's probably not. He probably did 6, and more than likely he's up for renewal, and the arc we're going to talk about in a couple minutes might be a selling point for him. The other major player is Sebastian Stan. Now, he plays Bucky Barnes, and for a lot of people, he seems like the logical choice outside of Sam Wilson to take over the shield. He was Captain America's first partner and sidekick, and in the movies he kind of did a lot of the dirty work for Cap during World War II. He does carry all the weight of being the Winter Soldier and being under Soviet control, so this may actually exclude him from the role. Sebastian Stan actually signed for 9 films when he first signed his Marvel contract, so he's got 4 left. He may need a slight readjustment, but he is a fan favorite. Now, there are tons of other people who have been Captain America. Isaiah Bradley, Shannon Carter, Danielle Cage, William Burnside, Jeffrey Mace, Roberta Mendez, and, in case you didn't know, the dumbling duo of Captain America history, Bob Russo, who was Captain America for 20 minutes before he broke his arm, and Scar Turpin, who got curb stomped by street thugs and called it quits in just a bit longer of a time frame. I seriously doubt they will use any of these people. Jeffrey Mace was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and the others have some merit, except for maybe Bob and Scar. But one really does work. I do think Isaiah Bradley's story is clearly worth telling in some form or another and would make a great series. A series would give it time and space and nuance so it could provide the proper detail for the whole story. I'm sure Feige recognizes passing the mantle is delicate. Fans have talked about and gotten to know Bucky and Sam's characters for a few years and even debated which one would make a better Cap. But I don't think any of these is being taken lightly, and the plan will be clearly long-reaching. It really doesn't matter who becomes the new Cap, by the way. It's the transition that's important, which is what leads us to who I think is going to be the next Captain America. And I actually think it'll happen in the upcoming Disney streaming service recently announced for Falcon and Cap. We'll dig into who I think that is in the next part. So I think the plan for Captain America is best served with a 5-story arc, starting in the miniseries that has been announced for Disney Play, and then ending in a potential Avengers film. So let's dig in. So to me, the best part 1 is Battle for the Shield. Now, we do know the Disney Play series is coming, and Battle for the Shield would be a hype name, but we wouldn't have Bucky or Falcon as Cap. In this show, John Walker will become the new Captain America. Now you need to familiarize yourself a little bit with John Walker. At first he was Super Patriot, and he had augmented strength, and he took over the role from Steve Rogers when Steve Rogers kind of wouldn't be the government lapdog anymore. He eventually returned the shield to Cap and became U.S. agent. A lot of fans don't like him. He's really rough around the edges and kind of extreme, but that works into the story perfectly. The way to make the story work is to have an opening scene with him as Cap, already geared up and ready to rock, really uncomfortably beating the crap out of opponents. Think of the opening of Winter Soldier, but a lot edgier, more unkind, and as brutal as Disney will allow. A very not Steve Rogers scene, which after hearing about it spurs both Bucky and Sam to step in and defend the memory of their best friend. The best villain to use in this series has already been established. We could use the Watchdog, and just a mention, but not an appearance, of Alexander Luskin, who will become important later on. We could even throw in some new characters. If you're familiar with the John Walker story, he did get a new Bucky, whose name was Battlestar beforehand. Probably a character that won't make it out of the miniseries and be killed off, but he would work. And the recent rumor of John Cena being interested in the part is kind of perfect. He does actually look like John Walker to me. He can play the part and do it a little over the top like a wrestler. And being a little over the top is sort of important. That wrestling persona would really work perfect with John Walker. The miniseries would conclude with Sam and Bucky defeating John Walker and then taking up the shield. And in this case, or at least in my version of the story, the new Captain America would be Sam Wilson. This would lead us directly into the first film. The first film that I would go with would be Captain America and the White Wolf. This would be easy setup. You could either use Hatemonger and the Elite or the Sons of the Serpents, one of these other racist villains that all kind of look alike. We give Sam his moment, make the movie about social justice being American justice, because right is right and wrong is wrong. I would take a little bit from one of the previous stories they had talked about and use the Mad Bomb story, set it in an urban area, and we would add a couple characters too. In this new Captain America arc, we can expand the America family, and I'd like to see them add Jack Flag, who will become important later on, and Eli Bradley, setting up that Isaiah Bradley series we had just talked about a couple minutes ago. Now, in this movie, we would have our first appearance of Alexander Luskin as part of a new Hydra, who is Hatemonger's secret supplier, and most importantly, the post-credit scene. And this post-credit scene would tease Luskin's new Cosmic Cube project name in its final stages with AIM. This would take us right into the third film, and leave us with a classic, solid Captain America story establishing Sam Wilson as the new Captain America. The third movie is where we may take a little bit of a different direction. It would be time for the regularly scheduled Avengers film. That's why the Thunderbolts, or maybe the Dark Avengers, would be perfect. This would allow Marvel to introduce quite a few new villains or anti-heroes, including Norman Osborn, maybe Ares, maybe Bullseye's Hawkeye, or maybe even some new acquired mutants. Now, AIM and MODOK would be used as the villain in this film, but it would see the return of U.S. Agent, aka the Captain, aka John Cena. Now, once again, the post-credit scene would help tie the arc all together, and for this one, we would actually see Luskin using the Cosmic Cube in a laboratory and creating a portal. This portal would dump out all kinds of organic material, leaving a person laying on the ground who appears to be a big, muscly sort of guy, and as he stands up, the camera pans over to Luskin, who goes, "It's him." Astounding. The fourth part of the arc would be another film, Captain America, Rise of the Serpent Society. Remember, Feige teased us with this for Civil War. This time, Luskin would be one of our primary villains, and he would team up with the Serpent Society to battle out with Cap, Bucky, and all the new characters that we had introduced throughout the series. There are so many storylines with the Serpent Society that this is pretty easy to do, and it's full of interesting and really visual baddies. I would add a bodyguard for Luskin, somebody that's got his back, you can't see his face, wearing a mask, maybe even a mask like Crossbones or something unique, just to keep him hidden. Now, this movie would be a standalone Captain America movie featuring Sam and Bucky battling it out with Luskin and the new Hydra, teamed up with the Serpent Society. And of course, the good guys save the day. But in the post-credit scene is where everything would kick off. And during the post-credit scenes, revealed that Luskin is actually the Red Skull. And during their escape, Jack Flag makes it onto their helicopter. A small battle ensues, and after Jack is beaten to a pulp and then thrown from the helicopter to his death, at this point, the man turns, looks at the Red Skull, removes his mask, and there stands Steve Rogers, who utters the words, "Hail Hydra." The final film in the arc would be, obviously, Avengers: Secret Empire. And this would be a Civil War style interpretation of the Secret Empire storyline. By this point, we would have full integration of all the Fox characters, meaning this could be possibly even a bigger event than Infinity War. And to abbreviate the plotline, the heroes are basically going to try to steal this new cube and pull the real Steve from the timeline to fight the current evil Hydra Steve. The story concludes, probably the Hydra Cap dying, and Chris Evans returning to the role. This gives Chris Evans a 6 or 7 year gap before he has to come back and play Cap again. It allows Anthony Mackie's Cap character to get fully embraced by the fans, have a full story arc, and be respected. It keeps the spirit of Steve Rogers lingering over the character throughout the whole arc. Always asking the question, what would Cap do? So what do you guys think? Do you like this idea for Captain America? Would you like to see Sam Wilson as Cap, or would you rather have Bucky? I do think the story works fine with either character, but the first part of the story clearly works best with Sam Wilson taking up the shield. Well, I think that's all we have for now. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you like this video, make sure you press like, click subscribe, and if you don't ring that bell, you won't get any updates. Peace.